French Prime Minister Michel Barnier is set to address the French public tonight in a series of interviews on live TV. In the meantime, I'm going to bring in France 24's Angela Diffley to talk a bit about all of this. Angela, let's start with that economic impact we were just hearing about from the Finance Minister Armand. How bad could this be?
It could be bad. Obviously, what happens on the financial markets affects the French economy. And we all know financial markets hate uncertainty. And there's uncertainty in two major ways, really. One is the actual what it would look like if this budget is not passed. We have been assured by many people that it would not look like an American-style federal shutdown where civil servants don't get paid. There would be no such chaos. But there is no real precedent, and it is very unclear. We are being told state expenses will be paid, but it's pretty unclear how. And the money markets do not like that. There are no real precedents of anything that looks like this before in French recent history. And so they're very uncertain. Is this going to end in lots of legal disputes and wrangles about what happens next, simply on the budget level? They are also, of course, confronted with uncertainty on the political level. What happens now? We know that it is very likely this government will topple. Emmanuel Macron then is likely to choose a new prime minister. He cannot call new parliamentary elections under the rules, can't be done before July because of last July's one. There needs a year gap in between. And so who will be the new prime minister? Will the government take a turn to the left? That is something, again, that money markets do like. And something else that is contributing to uncertainty is increasing calls for Emmanuel Macron himself to face early presidential elections. That is very unusual. And the result of all of that is that if you look at French government bonds, government borrowing in France is now reaching Greek-style levels. That, apart from being a national humiliation for the French, is not good for the economy. The euro yesterday was down by 0.8%. These are very real, significant impacts that it will have. And, of course, Germany itself is in trouble. The euro, all of that is not helpful for the euro. And, in the meantime, the whole point of this budget for Michel Barnier was to reduce France's deficit from 6%, which is way over what it should be, down to 5%, not to 3% where it should be. And, of course, nothing is now going to be done to address that in the short term.
So, Angela, you touched on this briefly, but just tell us a bit more about what kind of political fallout there could be from all of this.
Yeah, I think one thing that's useful to note is we do see in other countries, Italy, Germany, coalitions, and they do manage more or less, not Germany right now, but, very often they work quite well for quite a long time. And one of the reasons it's so problematic in France is that you have the ultimate prize, the presidency, which hovers over everything. And so I think to a greater degree than in other countries, politicians put their egos, their presidential ambitions before what looks like the national interest. And I think that's a key point that's helped France get into this mess. In terms of political impact, it looks very likely that Michel Barnier will be gone by the end of this week. And two other people who are the butt of enormous criticism as a result of this. Marine Le Pen, many people feel, has overplayed her hand. She says, I represent 11 million voters. But the reality is that if things go very wrong with the French economy, it is her often low-income voters who will suffer the most. And it's not really coherent with the strategy she's been pursuing so far, which was of being reasonable. And, there's a lot of speculation. Is this court case? 3 months' time, she could be banned from public life to get altogether. Has that influenced her thinking? Is this a last stand? Is it also an attempt to push Macron to early presidential elections so she can go before any ban comes into effect? The other big loser in all of this is massive criticism, again, of Emmanuel Macron, who plunged the country into this eternal chaos when he called those snap elections back in June, calls for him to resign to go for early presidential elections. That's very unusual in France.
All right, Angela, thank you for that. France 24's Angela Diffley.